Let me ask you a question. Did anyone see the presentation that I gave earlier today on M4RH? No. Or, okay, good. Sorry, I just wanted to know. So then just very quickly, Adam mentioned this program. I'm a behavioral scientist with FHI, formerly known as Family Health International. And we were doing some research, some qualitative research with contraceptive users in East and West Africa. And a couple of years ago, they said, we want more information about contraceptive information. And they all had mobile phones, and so we went back to them and we said, hey, how would you like to get information about contraception on your phones? And they said, ooh, yeah, neat. We get weather on our phones and we get sports scores on our phones. So getting information on birth control on our phones would be really great too. So that's how our program got born. It has a research focus to it. So we came in, we wanted to, evidence is the order of the day, as I'm sure all of you have been reading about. And so I'm trained as a researcher with a background in health communications, and so we wanted to see what kind of evidence is there that would recommend a health communication program such that you could provide family planning information to men and women via a mobile phone, and found very little, pretty much nothing on that, and so decided we had to develop our own program so that we could evaluate it and get some evidence about whether this is a good thing or is it effective or not. So we've done that, and along the way we've learned a number of different lessons. So I just wanted to quickly go over just kind of a couple of lessons and how they've affected our implementation. Our program is at scale in Kenya and Tanzania, so you can access the program anywhere that you get cell phone reception in either of those countries. It's a ping-pong interactive program, so you send the keyword M4RH to a short code, and then it comes back with a menu of contraceptive methods. Each one of those methods has its own keyword or code to it, and so then you send in the code for the specific contraceptive method that you want information about, and then you get the information back. It's very basic information. It's adapted from the WHO, basic content, how long does the method last for, what are the main side effects. We do a little bit of persuasive messaging. We try and address some of the misperceptions, but it is very, very basic content. So I have 4 little notes here, in addition to, I did write down that texting is cool. So we have that we can do. First of all, that mHealth or using mobile phones, it's really one strategy in our BCC or Behavior Change Communication Toolkit. And there's been, we've heard expressed the concern that, well, what if people are only using mobile phones for their BCC program and there's no other strategies to reach people? So we really have to keep in mind that mobile phones are a new channel for us to communicate with our end users, with our patients, with our providers, whoever it might be. So it can be cost effective to integrate an mHealth component into your behavior change communication programs, but it can also be really expensive. And so my perception is that programs are looking for an easy way to integrate mHealth into their larger programming. They want to say, we're doing mHealth programming. And so what we've been able to do is, USAID supported our program, so we're able to foot the development costs, and then now the cost for sustainability for the program is actually, it's very cost effective. And so our partners now, I just returned from the field a couple weeks ago, and all of our partners are really enthusiastic about this M4H program because it's an easy way for them. They can kind of buy into the platform, customize it a little bit, perhaps add additional health content for very low cost. What does low cost mean? Everyone wants to say, what's your dollar amount? So for around $20,000 US, they can keep our system up and running for a year, and that includes the cost of text messaging. So the development costs are expensive, but oftentimes the sustainability costs are not. So that was just one thing I wanted to say. Second, your audience is key. We all know this. Those who do behavior change communications, we know this. But you have to ask yourself, are mobile phones the right way of communicating with your target audience, right? You know, those questions around literacy, penetration, things like that. So you always want to do a lot of concept testing and formative research. Third, the user experience and message comprehension is key. And this is probably where an mHealth program might actually die. So that you can do this great programming, and David, you said this, that technology is typically not the problem. Sometimes it is, but typically it's not. And so you can, do almost anything you want to do, but if your end user doesn't understand your program or they don't understand your messages, then it doesn't there's no value to it, right? And so your program is generally not a success. It's that flat tire that you don't want to duplicate. So usability testing is key. We were able to collaborate with a group in Silicon Valley who did pro bono work for us to really help us work through that interface. And so we have been able to test it with people in the field before we actually went to scale. Language translation is hard. It's hard to take messaging that is in a different format and translate it to a mobile phone. Also, you have to do some advocacy here. People are not necessarily used to seeing content in a truncated form on a mobile phone. So we've had people from Ministry of Health, we've had clinicians, we've had global family planning experts look at our message, and sometimes we've gotten this reaction like, oh my God, what is this? This isn't okay. What are you trying to do? You know, they need to sit down one-on-one with a practitioner who can explain all this information to them. And so you really have to explain your program, talk about how it's developed systematically, methodically, all that kind of stuff. And then finally, don't overlook exposure. We know if you do behavior change communication programs, you know exposure is really key. We have a good example of that. We've launched in Kenya, we've launched in Tanzania. Kenya came first, it was easier, it was in English, and it's a slightly more sophisticated mobile phone market, if you will, with this more sophisticated mobile phone user. So the program right now is only with Zane, so it's only with one mobile phone provider, right? In Tanzania, we launched a couple months later, and we were able to do it. We do our program with Text to Change, if you guys have heard of them, and they were able to negotiate in Tanzania so that our shortcode is available regardless of your provider, right? And so what we've seen is that in Tanzania, our user numbers are much higher than they are in Kenya. And you know, there are several reasons, but one of the main reasons is for this access. And so now in Kenya, we're going back, and actually I think next week it's available regardless of your mobile phone provider. So you always have to pay attention to exposure. The more partners you have on board to help you with that promotion, then the better it is. And then lastly, my last question is, will we achieve the number of users that we want in these mHealth programs that are targeting an end user with health information? That's just a question I would throw out there because I think we've heard, or at least I've heard, a lot of different numbers or not heard numbers or things like that. And I think that's a question that we all need to be thinking.
Kelly, I would say that one critical piece which deserves underscoring is that you had the wisdom to go with Text to Change, and as a result, your so-called pilot is actually a national scale pilot. And a lot of people have been talking about small scale pilots that fizzle out. At least if yours fizzles out, it was a national scale pilot, and you should be proud of that. Because Text to Change, it's probably public information now, they've negotiated similar agreements with 16 other countries, so you have a built-in path to replicability. So